Okay, I want you to picture this. Imagine a 29-year-old analyst at the Treasury. She's sitting in front of three glowing monitors. One's tracking Bitcoin tick by tick. Another is running a model of the entire global bond market. And the third? It's using AI to read and process all the world's news in seconds. With just a couple of keystrokes, she can move more capital in a single hour than the central planners of 100 years ago could have dreamed of shifting in a whole year.
I mean, think about it. The actual tools of economic planning have been completely transformed. Gone are the smokestacks, the rail cars, the dusty paper ledgers from Friedrich Hayek's day. Now we're talking about massive server farms, super smart artificial intelligence, and crypto assets. The power and the speed are on a level that's just, honestly, it's hard to even wrap your head around. But here's the kicker, and this is what the source we're looking at today really dives into. The technology might be straight out of science fiction, but the core ambition, it's as old as time. It's this deep-seated belief that the economy is just a complicated machine, and if we can just find the right people and give them the right levers, they can steer it perfectly from some central control room.
Now, what's really interesting is that the source points out this new wave of planning doesn't even use the old-school words like socialism. Not at all. Instead, it's wrapped in the language of national greatness and economic growth. And its biggest fans? A whole new class of planners coming straight from the worlds of high finance and academic economics.
So you might be wondering, how exactly does this vision get put into practice? Well, the source we're digging into today lays out a really powerful three-part toolkit. This is the foundation of the whole economic program. Okay, so here they are. First up, you've got planning by tariff. The second tool is politicized money. And the third is state-directed savings. Now, according to the source, the real power isn't in any one of these alone. No, the magic, or the danger, depending on your view, is how they're all combined to create this brand new system of central direction. Let's break down that first one, tariffs. The argument here is that tariffs aren't being treated as some small, occasional policy tool anymore. Instead, they're being promoted to the main event, the central lever to reshape the entire economy, both at home and around the world. The source even calls it planning by border tax. And this has a huge knock-on effect, according to the source. It totally changes the game for businesses. All of a sudden, their main job isn't trying to figure out what customers want, it's trying to predict what politicians will do next. Success becomes less about having the best product and more about having the best lobbyist and getting special treatment from officials. All right, now for the second tool, and you can really start to see how these pieces lock together. The source points to a big push to bring the central bank, the institution that literally controls the money supply, under more direct political influence. And the reason given? It's always framed in this very reasonable-sounding way: democratic accountability. But the danger, as the source lays it out, is that this completely blurs the line between the people who spend the money, the politicians, and the people who print the money. It's a huge deal. When that happens, money stops being this neutral, stable foundation for the economy. Instead, it just becomes another tool, another instrument of political power. Okay, so the third and final piece of this puzzle discussed in the text is when the state gets directly involved in how families save their money. We're talking about actual proposals for the government to create, to fund, and to manage investment accounts for everybody, even starting with newborn babies. And look, on the face of it, who wouldn't want that? It sounds really generous and helpful. But the source argues that these programs have a hidden purpose: to gently nudge private financial choices so they line up with a government plan. They get people used to the idea of the state being their financial manager, which creates a kind of dependency on rules that, can always be changed later on. So, you take planning by tariff, you add politicized money, and you mix in state-directed savings. What do you get? Well, the source argues that what emerges is something much, much bigger than just the sum of its parts.
The author gives this system a specific name: corporatism. It's a bit of a jargony word, but the idea is simple. This isn't about the government owning all the companies. No, it's more subtle. It's a system where the state basically acts as the ultimate referee, standing above all the private companies and industries, brokering deals and handing out favors based on its own definition of the national interest.
So in this system, you still have private property, sure, but the real control gets more and more centralized. Your success in business starts to depend just as much on who you know in the capital as it does on your product's price and quality. And what you end up with is an economy where basically everyone, every company, every industry, is looking to that one central authority for direction. And this is where the author makes a direct link to Hayek's famous classic book, The Road to Serfdom. The argument is that these kinds of policies, even if they start with the best intentions,
They have a kind of internal logic, a momentum of their own, that just keeps pushing society down a very particular path.
And this slide really lays out that four-stage process perfectly. The source calls it the drift. First, it always starts with some kind of crisis or a major public grievance. That makes radical new policies seem not just possible, but necessary. Second, these new discretionary tools are brought in, but they're always sold as being just temporary fixes. Third, well, temporary becomes permanent. The tools get baked into law and institutions. And finally, stage 4, when these plans don't quite work out as promised, the call isn't to reverse course, it's for even more control, more centralization.
So, at the end of the day, this all boils down to a pretty fundamental choice we have to make. And the source is really clear on this. The choice isn't between having a plan and having total chaos. It's a choice between two very different types of order. On one path, you have an order based on rules. These rules are impartial, they're predictable, and most importantly, they apply to everyone, no exceptions. On the other path, you have an order based on rulers. This one is all about discretion, targeted interventions, and political decisions that are made on a case-by-case basis. So what does that first path, the alternative, actually look like? Well, according to the source, it's about government restraint. It means stable, predictable rules for trade that don't pick winners and losers. It means a money system with guardrails so it can't be easily hijacked for short-term political goals. And it means encouraging people to save, not through complicated state programs, but by just getting rid of the policies that punish them for saving in the first place. And this brings us right to the heart of the source's main warning, and it's a direct echo of Hayek. The road to servitude, it says, is paved with the kindly intentions of those who believe they can improve upon the spontaneous order by forcing it to fit their own superior design.
Look, the tools of control today are algorithmic, they're data-driven. They are more powerful than Hayek could have possibly conceived. There's no doubt about that. But the fundamental question that this analysis leaves us with is exactly the same. Can any central plan, no matter how smart, no matter how sophisticated, ever really be better than the complex, messy, beautiful, spontaneous order that's created by the free choices of millions of people?